The highest paid players in the NFL are on the offensive end, with quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow making $50+ million annually and signing contracts as much as $275 million. The success of the franchise is tied to their quarterbacks. Unfortunately, not all defensive players get the same love as their offensive counterparts, or at least that was the case until early September, when 49ers star Nick Bosa agreed to a record extension and became the highest paid defensive player in the long history of the NFL. Is Nick Bosa really worth the massive 5-year, $170 million deal that officially makes him the highest paid defensive player ever to play in the NFL? And how does this massive contract affect the 49ers salary cap moving forward? Formerly a graduate of Ohio State, Nick Bosa is no stranger to the world of professional football. He is the son of former NFL defensive end John Bosa and younger brother of Joey, currently a linebacker for the Los Angeles Chargers. Nick entered as a freshman at Ohio State in 2016, and already many could see the talent of the young star. He would play all 13 games in his first year, recording 29 tackles, with 7 of them being for loss. To cap off his impressive season, he would also contribute 5 sacks. Bosa continued at Ohio State during his sophomore year and finally became the first-string defensive end for the Buckeyes. It was during his second year that the true star would begin to shine, and Bosa would be named unanimous first-team All-Big Ten and Smith-Brown Big Ten Defensive Lineman of the Year. In fact, the numbers he put up were quite impressive during his sophomore year. Bosa recorded 32 tackles, 14.5 for a loss. He led Ohio State with 7 sacks and added another 2 pass breakups, 8 quarterback hurries, and a blocked kick to his overall tally by the end of the season. But while Bosa's future was looking bright, his senior year was one of frustration. On September 20, 2018, reports surfaced of Bosa undergoing core muscle surgery that ruled him out for the remainder of the season. However, this didn't affect his stock in any way, and after entering the 2019 draft, Bosa was projected to be the first overall pick by many analysts and scouts. After receiving his invitation to the NFL Scouting Combine, Bosa would go on to complete all the required drills, aside from the 10 and 20-yard splits. He was interviewed by 8 teams, including the likes of the Giants, Jets, 49ers, and Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but it would eventually be the 49ers who would take Bosa as the second overall pick in the 2019 draft. As a part of his selection, the star was offered a 4-year deal worth $33.5 million, of which $22.5 million was a signing bonus and a 5th-year option. A big contract for the newcomer, but one that would set the stage for bigger things to come. You see, Bosa didn't just enter the league, he had intentions of becoming a star, and by week 1 of the 2019 season, Bosa would record his first sack on the Bucs quarterback Jameis Winston, while recording 3 tackles in the 31-17 defeat of the Buccaneers. However, it would be in week 5 where Bosa would truly shine, recording 2 sacks on Baker Mayfield and forcing a fumble. This would see him become the NFC Defensive Player of the Week in his first season. In week 6, the momentum continued, as Bosa sacked Kyle Allen 3 times and recorded his first career interception in the 51-13 blowout of the Carolina Panthers. Thanks to these 2 impressive performances, Bosa would be named the NFC Defensive Player of the Month for October. By the time the season came to an end, Bosa would end his rookie year with 47 tackles, 9 sacks, a forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, and an interception for the 49ers. Bosa would continue this form during the playoffs, adding 4 sacks during the postseason before the 49ers eventually lost to Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs at Super Bowl 54. But these numbers were good enough to earn him the AP NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year award, and he was ranked 17th in the NFL Top 100 Players of 2020 going into his second season. But disaster was about to strike. After a massive ACL tear in Week 2, Bosa was sidelined for the rest of his second season. However, during his third season, Bosa would record an impressive 15.5 sacks. Adding to this, he would go on to tie TJ Watt for most tackles for loss at 21 by the end of the 2021 season, and his fellow players ranked him at second in the league for the NFL Top 100 Players of 2022, while earning Pro Bowl honors for the second time in his career. But it was perhaps his performance during the final season of his contract that showed the 49ers why they need to keep Nick Bosa on the roster. It was during the 2022 season that Bosa would record 18.5 sacks for 138 yards in the regular season, which also led the league in sacks. By the end of the season, the 25-year-old was named NFL Defensive Player of the Year, and he was officially ranked as the fourth best player in the NFL Top 100 Players of 2023, according to his fellow players. In fact, Bosa would play a major role in the 49ers being the #1 ranked defense of the 2022 season. San Francisco would lead the league in scoring defense, yards per game allowed, and defense success rate. Essentially, opponents only scored on 24.3% of their drives. With such stats and a promising future, the need for the 49ers to hold on to Bosa was becoming increasingly apparent, but this time, it would require some serious numbers in the checkbook. By September 5, 2023, Bosa had been holding out from signing a contract with the 49ers. Reports surfaced that the 49ers had begun their first game week preparations and their star defensive lineman was nowhere to be found. Concerns were starting to grow inside the 49ers camp, and with a stacked offense with the likes of Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and the rising star of Brock Purdy, it became imperative that the 49ers shore up the defensive side, with Bosa leading a furious line of Javon Hargrave, Eric Armstead, and Drake Jackson. Finally, after a 43-day holdout, terms were agreed between Nick Bosa and the San Francisco 49ers just before the start of the season. In fact, the 49ers finally rewarded the star with what he deserves, signing him to a 5-year, $170 million contract, of which $122.5 million will be guaranteed. The contract would see Bosa remain with the team throughout the 2028 season. But with the massive contract extension and large contract commitments already on the 49ers roster, what does that mean for the cap space? Fortunately, the 49ers have all this worked out, and even before the Bosa deal, contract restructures for George Kittle and Trent Williams cleared a combined $23.22 million. It is also reported that San Francisco has the flexibility to free up nearly $82 million through the restructuring of numerous other contracts, including the likes of Deebo Samuels and Fred Warner. The 49ers currently have $42 million in cap space. This would allow the 49ers to add even more firepower to their squad and could make them serious contenders for the Super Bowl this year. But paying so much for a single player comes with a fair bit of critique. If you are one of these doubters, it's probably best to look at the records he attained over the last few seasons. You see, Nick Bosa is not just another average defensive lineman who entered the league. The 25-year-old has already been compared to top defensive linemen like J.J. Watt and Aaron Donald in his 4-year career. As of this video, the 49ers boast a 44-17 record in games Bosa has played, while having a 10-5 record in games he hasn't played, which includes the postseason playoffs. Bosa has recorded a total of 194 tackles, with 65 being for a loss. Additionally, the 49ers defensive end has recorded 51 sacks, a single interception, 10 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, and 6 pass deflections. In terms of his personal accolades, Bosa boasts numerous NFC Defensive Player of the Week and Defensive Player of the Month awards, while being selected to the Pro Bowl on 3 occasions. These numbers prove the value that Bosa brings to the 49ers roster, and being awarded with the biggest defensive player contract in NFL history certainly makes sense for a team desperate to win the Super Bowl this season. To add to these records, we cannot forget that he is only 25 years old, which means he still has plenty of football ahead of him. The saying is, defense wins championships, and the San Francisco 49ers clearly believe this with the Bosa signing. And with $42 million in cap space, the scary thing is, the 49ers can still add to their stacked roster as they pursue another Lombardi trophy. So, with Nick Bosa becoming the highest paid defensive player in NFL history, do you think he is deserving of this contract? And will we continue to see his dominance over opposition quarterbacks in the future? Let us know in the comments below.